When was the last time you carried something that wasn't even yours to carry? Think about it. You're walking through life holding someone else's anger, someone else's expectations, someone else's mistakes, and somewhere in between, you start confusing it all as your responsibility. And then you wonder why you feel so heavy, why you're so drained, why no matter what you do, it's never enough. Here's the truth. You're not responsible for everything that shows up in your life. You're not responsible for every emotion someone else decides to throw at you. And when you finally start separating what belongs to you and what doesn't, that's when you start to take your power back. Let's be honest, you've been told from the very beginning that you have to make everyone happy. Parents say, don't upset your teacher. Teachers say, don't disappoint your parents. Friends say, don't leave us behind. Society says, don't fall short of the image we created for you. And slowly, you start to believe that every time someone is upset, every time someone doesn't like you, every time someone makes a mistake, you have to step in and fix it. But here's what you need to hear today. You're not responsible for other people's emotions. You can be kind. You can be respectful. You can be thoughtful. But at the end of the day, how someone chooses to react, that's on them. That's their story, not yours. Think about it. You say no to a plan and your friend gets mad. You say yes to focusing on yourself and suddenly someone labels you selfish. You speak your truth and someone takes offense. Are you supposed to carry their reaction every single time? If you do, then you'll live your life chained to their moods, chained to their triggers, chained to their inability to manage themselves. That's not freedom. That's prison. And the key to the lock is this one simple realization. Their emotions are not your responsibility. And here's another weight you've been dragging around, other people's expectations. You didn't ask for them, but they showed up anyway. Maybe your parents expected you to follow a career you don't care about. Maybe your friends expect you to always be available. Maybe the world expects you to look, talk, or live a certain way. But what happens when you spend your whole life trying to meet their expectations? You lose yourself. You forget what you actually want. You silence your own voice so you can fit into their story. But listen, you don't have to keep doing that. Their expectations are not a contract you signed. Their expectations are not a cage you're required to live in. Let me make this personal. Imagine you're carrying a backpack. Every expectation someone puts on you, you put another rock in that backpack. Be the perfect child. That's a rock. Be the perfect employee. Another rock. Be the perfect partner. That's another one. Before you know it, you're bent over, exhausted, dragging yourself through life, not because you're weak, but because you're carrying weight that was never yours to begin with. The moment you realize you can unzip that backpack and take some of those rocks out, you start standing up straighter. You start breathing easier. You start walking lighter. And then there's the responsibility you think you have for someone else's mistakes. How many times have you stepped in to clean up a mess you didn't even make? How many times have you sacrificed your peace, your money, your time just to rescue someone who refused to take responsibility for their own choices? It feels noble, doesn't it? Like you're the savior, like you're keeping everything together. But let me ask you, at what cost? Because if you're always rescuing, they're never learning. If you're always fixing, they're never growing. And if you're always carrying their mistakes, they'll never feel the weight of them long enough to change. Taking your power back means drawing a line and saying, I can love you, I can support you, but I will not take responsibility for the choices you make. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. That's boundaries. And boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're fences that protect what matters inside of you. You're also not responsible for living a life that pleases everyone else. Somewhere along the way, you picked up this belief that in order to be accepted, you have to perform. You have to smile when you're hurting. You have to say yes when you mean no. You have to shift into whatever version of yourself will make the people around you comfortable. But let me tell you this, when you live like that, you're trading authenticity for approval. And approval is a moving target. No matter how hard you try, someone will always disapprove, and that's okay. Because your responsibility is not to please everyone. It's to be true to yourself. Taking your power back doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in small choices every single day. The choice to say no without apologizing. The choice to let someone be upset without feeling like you have to fix it. The choice to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The choice to take rocks out of your backpack and finally feel light again. And here's the good part. When you stop carrying what isn't yours, you have room to carry what actually matters. Your growth, your dreams, your peace, your purpose. You start walking taller. You start speaking louder. You start living freer. That's what happens when you stop taking responsibility for what doesn't belong to you and start owning what does. You get your power back. When you really think about it, most of the weight you carry isn't even yours. It's like you've been living in a house where everybody keeps dropping their laundry at your door, and somehow you decided it was your job to wash, fold, and return it. But here's the truth. You're not the laundromat for other people's lives. You're not here to process their emotions, live up to their expectations, clean up their mistakes, or bend yourself to their approval. You're here to live your life. And when you start giving back what doesn't belong to you, you finally take back the space to breathe, to grow, to live. The first thing you need to hear again, because it's the one that trips us up the most, is you are not responsible for how other people feel about your choices. You could be the kindest person in the room, you could bend over backwards, and still someone will be offended. Someone will be disappointed. Someone will find a way to be upset. If you measure your life by how people react, you'll always feel like you're failing. Why? Because people's reactions have more to do with them than with you. Their triggers, their insecurities, their worldview, it's their lens, not your truth. And if you let their lens become your mirror, you'll never see yourself clearly. Taking your power back looks like reminding yourself, I can't control how they feel, and I don't have to. The second thing is this. You're not responsible for fixing people. Let me say it plainly, you can't save everyone. You can't heal someone who doesn't want to heal. You can't change someone who doesn't want to change. You can encourage, you can support, you can love. But if someone is determined to stay stuck, that's their choice. And when you take on the burden of fixing them, you start drowning in problems that aren't yours. That doesn't make you compassionate. It makes you drained. Real compassion is knowing the difference between helping and carrying. Helping is offering a hand. Carrying is picking up their entire life and dragging it on your back. And if you keep carrying, you'll break before they bend. The third weight you've got to put down is responsibility for other people's happiness. This one is tricky because it feels noble. It feels like love. But ask yourself this. How many times have you sacrificed your own joy just to make sure someone else was smiling? How many times have you walked on eggshells to keep the peace only to feel broken inside? Happiness is an inside job, and the moment you make it your duty to keep someone else happy, you're signing up for a job you'll never succeed at. Why? Because happiness is not permanent. It's not something you can hand over in a box. It's fleeting. It's personal. It's theirs to build. You can share joy, but you can't manufacture it for them. And when you realize that, you stop pouring from an empty cup and start protecting your own. And then there's the belief that you're responsible for the image other people have of you. Think about how much energy you've wasted managing perceptions, making sure you don't say the wrong thing, making sure you don't look the wrong way, making sure nobody gets the wrong impression. But here's what I want you to understand. People will think what they want, no matter how carefully you package yourself. You could be the most genuine, most thoughtful, most careful person, and someone will still misunderstand you. That's not your fault. That's not your job to fix. You're not responsible for defending your reputation in every room you're not in. You're responsible for your character. And character always outlasts perception. So, how do you take your power back? By practicing the small, uncomfortable choices every day. By letting someone be disappointed without rushing to change their mind. By allowing someone to feel upset without apologizing for existing. By saying no when your body and mind scream no, even if their face says they're hurt. By walking away from conversations that drain you instead of explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It's not easy. You'll feel guilt at first. You'll feel like you're being selfish. You'll feel like you're letting people down. That's normal. That's the sign you're growing. Because here's the secret. Every time you choose yourself, the guilt gets quieter. Every time you set a boundary, the weight gets lighter. Every time you say, That's not mine to carry. Your spine gets straighter, your voice gets stronger, your life gets freer. And then something amazing happens. You start attracting the right kind of people. The ones who respect your boundaries. The ones who celebrate your no. The ones who don't expect you to fix them, but instead walk beside you while fixing themselves. That's when you realize you never lost anything by putting down what wasn't yours. You only gained. You gained your time, your peace, your joy, your power. So here's what I want you to take with you. You are not responsible for how people feel about your choices. You are not responsible for fixing people who don't want to be fixed. You are not responsible for making others happy at the expense of your own. And you are not responsible for the picture people paint of you in their minds. Those weights were never yours to carry. What is yours is your growth, your peace, your joy, your decisions, your life. That's where your power is. And the sooner you stop handing it out to everyone around you, the sooner you start living like it was always meant to be yours.